Hi. Oh, I want to have another look at making selections using Photoshop. So I'm borrowing one of Natalie's pictures here. The easiest route is to use the object selection tool, which if you right click on any of these this icon will show you the quick selection and the magic wand tool. Amongst the other selection tools we have here are the Lasso Tool, the Polygonal Lasso Tool, and the Magnetic Lasso Tool. Magnetic Lasso is kind of interesting in that it will try and stick to an edge. So I'm just left clicking and dragging. This is like an older tool, but it will let me reasonably accurately outline an object I want to select just by me following the edge. When I make it all the way around and I bring the start point and the end point together, can you see we get that little tiny circle just appearing? That means it's forming a complete path, and that will become a selection. So you get the marching ants to show you've got it selected, and then you could hit mask to mask out the background. Let's undo that a bit. I'm just going to do Control D to deselect, which is also select, deselect up at the top here to unselect and get rid of the marching ants again. Control D. What else do we have here? We've got the Lasso Tool, which is basically you just left click and drag round an item you want to select, and it makes a selection. It's kind of a quick, fast way, but not terribly accurate. What else do I have? The Polygonal Lasso Tool is probably better for so you click for things with straight edges. So I left click to drag a point, and then I click to change direction. So I'm going click, 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 and again, once we reach you need to get back to the other end of the line to close the selection. So you're still getting that little tiny circle, and then that turns into a selection also. We've also got the rectangular marquee tool, which has an ellipse marquee tool and a few other options. So the rectangular marquee tool, we just left click and drag a box to make a selection, and equally the elliptical marquee tool will do an ellipse. If you hold down shift, it will constrain that so it will be a perfect circle rather than an ellipse. So shift to constrain, and again circular selection. Control D to deselect. The newer ones, the object selection tool, which I quite like, we just drag a box over the whole thing we hope to select, and you can see it does a pretty good automatic job. Let's deselect that, and we've also got the magic wand tool and the quick selection tool. The quick selection tool, you can increase the size of the tool using the square brackets, or again up here you can adjust the size of it here in pixels. I like to use the square brackets because it's easier, but when you start using which one was it? The quick selection tool, you see the selection kind of jumps around. It's kind of looking for edges. See, it jumped automatically and got most of the thing, but it missed this little section out here. So I've just clicked again. I'm not sure whether you can make it out, but right at the center of this circle is a plus. If I press the Alt key, you'll see that turn into a minus. What it's doing is switching between this control, add to selection, and subtract from selection. And we've also got new selection. So let's say we wanted to get a bit more of this blue in the selection. We could just, using the plus, add in some blue. I just went a bit crazy for my demonstration there, so let's go a bit bigger. Let's say we've overlapped and we don't want this piece. If I hold down the Alt key and approach it, can you see it's reducing the selection now? Holding the Alt key to reduce. And I can go back in and make it bigger. And I can use the Alt key from the outside of the selection to kind of push it back in, which is good. Let's deselect that again. Now we've also got some refine selection tools. So if I get back to the cool object selection tool and reselect this hamster, see, it does quite a good job. Now if I go into select and mask, we get the more advanced selection tools. And as it stands, this has got a really kind of hard edge to it, like it's been cut out of a piece of paper and just stuck on top. A selection doesn't have to be hard. It can be you can have a softer, more gradiated result to it. What have we got here? We've got edge detection, we've got radius, smooth, feather, contrast and shift edge, and all these things will let us kind of automatically adjust our selection. So if I increase the radius, will it let me do this? Can you see it kind of growing and getting kind of more kind of fluffier looking here? You wouldn't want to turn it up that much, but you see it just becomes a little bit more blended. And we've got smooth. Let's see what smooth does. See, it's gone from rough edges here. Let's zoom in so we can see these. Look at these rough edges. If I turn up smooth, can you see it's just smoothing that out and making the whole thing more gradual? Turn that back down. Let's see what feather does. See, feather takes the whole edge and you just get a transition between the image and the selection. If you go right up, if you turn it up too much, it kind of blows out completely. Contrast, let's see what that does. See how that's, if you look here, you can see some pixels. Can we zoom in a bit closer? You can see this pixely edge. If I adjust the contrast, see, it sharpens up and increasingly becomes a harder, more defined edge. That's what that one does. Shift edge. This, I think, moves the selection out or in. Can you see? That's kind of expanding the selection, and that's kind of contracting the selection. Let's turn it back to 0. One of the tools you will have seen me use quite a lot is the Refine Edge Brush tool. What this is doing, when you drag over the edge, it's kind of evaluating the edge of an image and trying to make a better guess of where the true edge is. It's not perfect by any means, but it's kind of, here we've got we've adjusted the opacity down here. Can you see it's sat on this blue towel? So Photoshop is really kind of struggling to know where you want the actual true edge of this thing to be. So you're getting a bit more of this toweling. If I make the brush smaller, again using the square brackets, I can do a more gradual job of this. And can you see it's picking out these hairs now? So it's actually looking a lot more natural and a lot more like less like it's been cut out with a pair of scissors. It's got a little bit bigger. Now this can slow your computer down a bit doing this. So sometimes you just need to bear with it and go a little bit slow, or if you just kind of brush around the edge. Keep going. Once you've been all the way around it, you should have a fairly gradual edge going on. Now, to get out of this dialogue, which is filling my whole screen, you've got some options. If you just click OK, you'll end up with the marching ants, but it also gives you output to a layer mask, which we've done, to a new layer, So it'll just give you that piece on a separate layer, a new layer with a mask, a new document with a layer mask. We'll go out of selection, but just to see what happens. So we'll click OK, and can you see it just looks like a dotted line, but in Photoshop's computery brain it's actually created a layer mask here, and in the information in it, rather than it being a black and white selection, you've got like a faded effect between the two. So if I click layer mask to create that layer mask, and it drops the background out, we can actually look at the layer mask so we can see that edge. If I press Alt and click on here, can you see we've got definite black where everything's hidden, definite white where everything's revealed, but we've got these kind of grey colours, and those are what give us the subtlety between the selections. Now if you're so inclined, you can draw in this layer mask exactly like any other layer mask. So if I draw in it in black and just do like a splodge here, splodge, that's a technical term, and we can do, let's turn the hardness down to 50% and do a softer splodge. Now when I come out of this by pressing Alt and clicking on the mask, then you can see we've made those holes in it. Don't know why you'd want holes in your guinea pig, but they're there anyhow. So that's a look at all the different selection tools and kind of how they can be used. Thank you for watching.